husbands may hit their wives even if the husbands merely fear high-handedness in their wives. And as a Muslim woman, how do you interpret these verses?
The passage about husbands can apparently hit their wives. I'm going to explain this. Now, the passage doesn't say that husbands, it doesn't advocate domestic violence or beating your wife. It's actually restraining it, and I'm going to explain how. So when the Quran was revealed at the time, and I'd also just like to add that the Prophet, peace be upon him, whose example we emulate in all things, never hit any woman. But at the time, many men were abusive to their wives. They would not only have one wife, they would have tens of wives, and they were very incredibly oppressive and brutal upon them. And so this verse was revealed saying, no, you don't want to be hitting your wife, basically. As if you read the verses, you'll see that it's a 3-step program. It's like an anger management program. The first step, and also you should notice that the word nushuz, which says, I think you translated it as high-handedness, it's actually been interpreted to actually mean basically on the path to adultery. So it's meant actually flirtatiousness. So if your wife is flirtatious, this is what you do, basically. And remember that the punishment for adultery in Islam for both men and women is capital punishment. So it's talking about if your wife is on the path to adultery, if she's flirting with other men, here's what you do. And now remember, first of all, and just to begin, if the husband is on the path to adultery, what recourse does the wife have? That passage doesn't talk about it, but it's mentioned elsewhere. The wife basically can go directly to the state, and the state will publicly admonish him and discipline him. This is the recourse that the wife has. For the woman, it's considered embarrassing for the husband to drag the woman into a public court and say, my wife's kind of, being a bit like this. No, Islam says you retain her dignity and her respect. This is what you do. It doesn't say you start beating on her. Basically, it's saying, first of all, you talk to her and you explain what's wrong. So if you go, when you open the verses again, have a look, because people often bring up that one verse, but there's one above it and there's one below it. Firstly, you speak to your wife and you advise her and you tell her what is wrong with what she's doing if she doesn't realize. Maybe she's not happy in the relationship, maybe she wants to be with someone else, in which case she can seek a divorce and be with the other person. But if she's just staying in that relationship but she doesn't want to be with him and she's flirting with someone else, these are the steps that he gets to take. So he first advises her and speaks with her and says, this is wrong, and change this thing. Then it says, if that doesn't work, then it doesn't say start, oppressing her and, force yourself on her and be oppressive and mean and brutal to her. No, it says, first you've done that step where you've talked to her, and now distance yourself from her. Give her time to think, and you think, and that space in a marriage is very often it resolves things most of the time. It says stay away from her bed. It doesn't say stay away from her bed and oppress her. Maybe, like I said, maybe she doesn't want to be with him, and then isn't it more oppressive to be in the same place, force yourself and be in the same bed? No, it's saying take your time and stay away from her. So it's limiting that step. So whereas previously men would just go straight to beating in that paradigm, and also in today's society we often hear about these domestic violence figures, it's equally applicable today. And then if that doesn't work, and again she still has the opportunity to seek a divorce if she's not happy, nobody is forcing her to stay. If she still doesn't seek a divorce and she's still continuing with that, then it's saying that rather than dragging her to the state and in front of all these things, then you can, whatever. But there's also all these restrictions on, it has to be really, so light that she can't even feel it, basically. It's supposed to be symbolic. So as you can see, it's not like if you're cross with your wife, you can just start beating on her. No, it's saying these men, are pretty, those particular men, pretty hot-headed. They would just go straight to, very violently beating on their wives. And this passage was basically revealed to say, you're not allowed to do that. It's actually designed to restrict it and restrain it. And you have to remember that it's not just, if your wife, she burns something. It's actually if she's on the path to adultery, which has a punishment of capital punishment in the eyes of the state. So that's the explanation of that verse.